I mean, I know the rod. I mean, I mean, she's capable. My issue is she's the most capable one out there. That's the one that's going to get my vote. I don't care what they say. Elizabeth Warren isn't running. And that's it. Anybody who thinks Liz is running can forget it, and because she knows where she is at this particular time and what she's about. I love Elizabeth Warren, you know.
But here's the difference between the two. Elizabeth Warren can connect with people.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
part of
she's
the
a
reason,
people person.
well, it's more than that. Is she stands for something. She goes out. She speaks her mind. That's what people want to hear. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? Part of Hillary Clinton's been around for a long time. Elizabeth Warren hasn't, so she has a history, and like any politician, you can go back through the history and you can pick out certain things. So maybe there was something that 20 years ago that you believed this should be this, and 20 years later you should believe something different. Now you're accused of being a flip-flop artist, or you're trying to waffle. But that's not just male and female, but with a female, it's more like, oh, female can't make up her mind.
Yes.
Well, I mean, but how can anybody say what's she looking for? It takes a village, you know what I mean?
Sure.
She's been leading children's stuff since she was in college, not let alone her political thing. Okay, I mean, she's been a community organizer. She's a Alinsky girl. I mean, you know, so the healthcare issue. She led the way in the healthcare issue.
Yes.
Okay, picked up off of Kennedy and went in there, and they hated her for that.
I got blasted the other day.
Yeah.
I got blasted the other day because I said that, gee, folks, really, what you have now in terms of the Affordable Care Act, the progenitor of the Affordable Care Act was Hillary Clinton.
You're right.
And people, I got the no. I said, go back and look.
Go back
See,
and look.
look at the history.
They
of
don't
it.
see. They don't know the history. So
Yeah.
when you're talking about, I mean, I heard somebody say she got no issue. I said, "What? You crazy? All you got to do is look at her history. You're talking child care.
Right.
You're talking all those are grassroots type of thing. You're talking medical and history. She didn't win it, but she fought for it.
She did.
But those are also considered to be women's issues.
Yes. Well.
Oh, okay.
No, in fairness, they're considered fairness.
I like that because it's time for a woman.
Agreed.
Well, she also, if you recall, was the first lady that dared to step out of the little box that, whether you wanted to grow plants or vegetables or whether it was just say no to drugs. Hillary was a partner. She was viewed by Bill that she had the brains to help with
They were a team, yeah.
with
Right.
important issues.
Yeah.
And even my own sex from that era didn't like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And actually before her was Rosalind Carter. But
Yes.
Rosalind Carter did it in a different manner.
Different in a way.
Yes.
Different
yes.
manner. She was behind the scenes. The stories come out
Well,
about
we
Rosalind
can-
Carter
I
going
wish-
out into the staff meeting.
Staff meetings.
Oh,
right?
well, let's not forget about Eleanor Roosevelt.
I wish
Absolutely.
you and I were right on
Oh,
Roosevelt,
my goodness.
right?
There
We were
you
in the
go.
country then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who was running the country?
yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, I thought it was interesting. They have this thing about who should be on the $20 bill, and so they have a list. So there's a list of women, right? As Sojourner Truth and various other women, and Eleanor Roosevelt, who's done more
More
to change the direction of the country than
Than
Eleanor.
anybody
I would say Eleanor.
I would too.
Yeah.
Me
I
too.
would be a vote.
I
would
voted
vote that.
I voted that.
I would vote that. That's what I would vote. Yeah.
And it's no knocking on the rest of the women.
It's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, it isn't a knock on the rest. There should just be more space.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I actually picked it up twice out of my jewelry box today. I happen to have that eagle pin with the pearl on it. The insider pin from Clinton days that Hillary wore all the time and all the women, Democrat women wore. I was so tempted to put it on today. And I said, gee, if some of the people in Oxford see I'm wearing a Hillary pin, gee, I could lose some votes that way. Now, it's hard not to think that way sometimes, even when you have my personality and say, I don't care. I can't tell you folks out in Oxford, if you're watching this ever, I wish I had my Hillary Clinton pin on. There you have it.
Yeah, well, it's time.
It's time,
It
yes.
really is. And I think a lot, and it's up to I think the women. It's up to the women, okay, to put her in. I think I think it's all the independents and everybody else that says, look, this is time. You got to be kidding me. You brain power? What are you worried about? Brain power, recognition around the world, baggage, yes, always okay. But you're talking serious leadership.
But you're also talking about breaking the established order.
Yeah.
Because you have
Well, it's time.
Well, I know it's time. You know it's time. You know that the population has gone away from the traditional white male base into being female, being non-white. You know, Latino,
That's right.
Latino, Black, Asian, so on. And they are now the majority. In Texas, the Hispanics are becoming the majority.
Yes,
the
right.
white, the white male Republican establishment is deathly afraid of this. But are they willing to do anything to change? No, I'm in the process of writing about this, going back and looking at. There was a Republican report after the 2000. The presidential election, the 2012 election, written by the National Committee, Republican National Committee, about how they need to be friendlier towards women and minorities and gays and all the rest of that. And it drew a lot of attention at the time and a lot of controversy and so on. And saying, oh yeah, they're gonna start changing.
Not
Have
at
they
all.
done? Have they done anything to change?
No.
No. And part of it is the established order, and the established order is also associated with the moneyed interests.
It's not, and again, the people power isn't there yet. They're not voting enough yet. It's the problem we have every place. Okay, if the people power, and people do not understand how powerful that the vote is, that you need to get out and vote. And people, if they don't take it personal, they don't vote. Yeah, okay.
Well, it's not just vote, but get out and organize, get
Oh,
out
you
and
gotta-
speak.
yeah, exactly right.
Because if you don't, then those parties who do are heard. You're not.
You're not.
Yes.
That's exactly
That's
right.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the reason I write, is that I'm not you. I would not be able to go out and organize and do those things, but I can write. And I can write about the things that interest me and I think will be interesting to other people. It's a form of organization. It's a form of activism. Just what you decide to write about is a form of activism because there are so many other things that you could write about. So making the choice of, I'm going to write about this, but not about that, is saying, okay, this is what I think is most important at this point in time.
Yes. Well, you know what? There's another aspect I see of this, is that we're too quick to want to divide ourselves by political parties. Yes, there's a certain philosophy in each party, changes at times and all. But what I see the average citizen doing is relying on what they say sound bites, and especially the stations that are more entertainment than they are news, and almost a way of brainwashing to divide us. I feel that way.
I agree with a lot of that. Okay, people who watch us, for the most part, we know are activists. They're concerned with what's going on in their towns and the localities across the state. Okay, so we know that. We're well aware of that. The other thing is the working people don't have the time to research all this stuff.
That's
And
right.
I get mad when people say, well, these folks, why aren't they at the town meeting? Because they got kids and they're working all day and they're not getting to the town meeting because at the town meeting or in New London, by the time they get up there, 30 people have already signed their names to speak and these individuals are not going to be heard. So we try to provide a way that they're heard
Right.
and we ask them through action. And it works very well for me over the years that I've developed that crew and those individuals that have enough time to maybe catch the show, find out what's going on, read a little bit about what I'm saying in my dyslexic manner too. Facebook is a powerful tool, more powerful than I think than some of the organizational stuff I've ever done, because I'm totally myself there with all the mistakes and everything else, and it gets corrected. And that's what I find, that, okay, on an issue, if we're on a politician or we're on an issue, I ask people to get out and do stuff, they do it.
Well, this morning we were talking about the new study that came out about how divided people are, and literally that that it's boiled down to almost a hate attitude. The liberals hate the conservatives. The conservatives hate the liberals. And it's not dislike. It's actual hate. It's
visceral.
Visceral.
Oh, it is.
Visceral.
It is.
It's visceral. It's terrible.
And so, if you're whomever comes into being president, you're dealing with that degree of divisiveness in the population. How do you pull everybody together? I don't know. Now, whether some of that is caused by the attitudes around the current president and his race, that's a factor, and we would all be less than honest to say that it wasn't. It wasn't. That's part of it. Same thing with a woman, is that there is that segment of the population who could have Mother Teresa, who could have whomever come in, and they would hate and they would not vote for her, and they would be against her because female.
Just because she's a female.
I don't know. It's really interesting. I look at the media. The media that we deal with now is powerful, very, very powerful. We here all use the internet and stuff like that. You know, in the group that follows me, it appears most of them are under 45. Okay, you would think, because I'm an old man, that there would be older individuals, but the vast majority are 45, and many under 35 voters, 18 and older, that can vote and stuff like that. So, I mean, when I looked at the statistics, I went like, you know, this is the individuals that you're talking to and that you're speaking to. These are young folk. These are, which makes me feel good that they're, you know, hopefully they're listening, or at least, you know, hearing.
Yes, but you're also coming down and you're saying something. Mm-hmm. You're taking decided stands, and people can relate to that. Mm-hmm. Part of the issue is that you've got the afraid to say anything dramatic on one side or the other because you're going to alienate the other side.
Sure, I said that just in this conversation.
Sure,
with my little pin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it is an interesting situation in the politics of this.
Well, you've got demographics, you've got organizations, you've got shifts in leadership, you've got shifts in economics, all occurring at the same time. Shifts in the world, in the leadership of the world.
Yes.
And so somebody who's coming in has to be able to very quickly adapt and be able to deal with all that. Who's better prepared to be able to do that on day one? Remember all that about he's ready to be president on day one? Hillary Rodham Clinton.
All right, but here's the question.
No question about it.
All right, but here's the question. Who of the big rollers in this world, and they rule this country to some extent economically, who economically, and this is where it's hard for her or anyone that's running for president, how do you do what's right for the people and realize that since the Supreme Court has decided that money is freedom of speech, I always thought it came out of your pocket, not your mouth, but that's okay. How does Hillary navigate this? Who is supporting her?
George Soros, Tom Steyer. She has money.
She has money. She's not worrying about money.
In fact, this is part of the issue about the Democratic primaries. She's got over $1 billion lined up.
Right, right.
Okay.
No wonder they're throwing the kitchen sink at her.
Well, of course. But no other Democratic candidate has the money sources. So Bernie Sanders very quickly found out, sorry, Bernie, no money for you.
There's no money.
I don't know where Martin O'Malley's going to get his money. You have, on the Republican side, I wrote about this, you have Cruz, who found a hedge fund manager in New York, right?
New York, right?
New
the
York,
guy, what's
who's
his name?
who's backing him. He's a billionaire because he managed to hit it right on derivatives.
Right.
So now he's a captain of industry. Well, and if by some strange fluke of the world that Ted Cruz becomes president, which means that you and I automatically go to Bolivia.
Oh my God!
Who's he going to answer to? Who's he going to answer to?
One billionaire.
One billionaire.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and you see, this is the thing, and you can't fault Hillary, and you can't fault any of the other politicos or politicians that are looking for this. This is the way it's been set up. This is the only way you can do it, and there's no other way to do it, whether you don't like it or not.
Well, one point, and one thing that is going to become a bigger factor as we get closer to Election Day, there is the possibility that the next president could nominate 4 candidates for the Supreme Court.
Oh, yes.
Definitely
yes.
2.
Yes, they're all aging.
They're all aging, and so which 4?
That's why we need a Democrat in there.
Yeah,
Yes.
which 4 get nominated is going to have a big say about the future of the country, but the future of the world.
That's true.
And here's the curiosity point. We treat everything as being United States or local, but the reality is everything that's done has an impact on the rest of the world.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you let's take the craziest and the most inconsequential of the Republican candidates. Let's say Donald Trump, by some strange
You're not going to go with Bush?
Oh,
Jebby, baby? Okay, Donald Trump. Let's
say Donald
Let's
Trump.
say Donald Trump.
Donald Trump and his
I
hair.
like his hair.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Becomes
the
president.
Donald Duck.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Becomes president.
Okay.
Who do you think he would nominate to the Supreme Court?
Oh my God!
Oh,
I don't even want to. I don't even
probably,
want to think. I don't even want to think who we'd be looking for.
Or Rand Paul, or
any of them.
or Lindsey Graham, or whomever.
Well, all you in that respect, all you have to do is understand what Scalia just said about interpreting the Constitution. He's a literalist.
Yes.
He said it's a dead, 3 times document. It ain't a dead document. It's no more. It's like the Catholic. I hate the argument of the literalist versus how you interpret Scripture. It's a living document that changes with time and everything else, and you interpret it off a tradition and stuff like that. That's what the popes and all those people are supposed to be about. Yeah. It's the same thing with the Constitution.
Right.
It was meant to change.
It was meant but also you have a group of men and women. There were women involved in the formation of the Constitution.
You're right. Exactly right.
Abigail Adams, for one.
Right.
That wrote the Constitution based on what they knew and what they wanted at the time. That's 220 some odd years ago.
Right.
223 years ago. And it's evolved over time. It's
with
had
amendments.
With amendments.
Yeah.
In additions.
In additions and papers on both sides.
Yeah.
Federal paper. Nobody. When he said that, I went like.
Why is he in the Supreme Court?
Yeah. Why is he in the Supreme Court? If that is what you're saying, you got to, and there's scary people.
But the point is
that
that
believe like him.
Well, the point is that, as you said, an originalist. That means that he goes and he tries to, what would Hamilton and Madison and so on interpret the current situation to be based on 220 years ago?
Well, now we're oracles here. Who knows what they would do?
They never conceived of all this.
That is a frightening thing to say. I think to any lawyer, any attorney, it's a dead document.
How, the thing is,
history changes,
the core of that document
changes.
says that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Right. Listen, that's the core of the document.
Well,
and that's how it lives. And breathes.
And it breathes.
It breathes through we, the people.
We the people. That's exactly right. That's what I believe.
But it's we the money now.
Oh,
How much you can be bought.
Well, that's the scary thing. How you make a corporation a person is beyond
Freedom
me.
of speech is
Well,
money.
well, actually, I know a little bit about that one.
Yeah, I know.
There,
you do.
Yes.
there's a legal precedent behind it, but they took the legal precedent, which is basically around stockholder rights,
Right.
and bastardized it to be that that a corporation should have the same right to influence elections as anybody else, and that's not the case. No. And you know,
They went on. They took a big jump on that one.
and Justice Ginsburg, who is now everyone's hero, she went ballistic on that. And if you read what she wrote as in response to it, that's about as nasty a response to Scalia and the others about how you interpreted this as you possibly can without being, and still be a Supreme Court justice.
I'm old, I don't care.
Well,
It's also Ruth Bader Ginsburg too.
Yeah. She, 84 years old. God bless
Sure.
her.
God bless
Sure.
her.
What we hope is that that nobody gets in there as president that can keep this in the Scalia basket. I mean that's.
Well, whatever it was meant to be about money entering politics, it's not working in the positive way it was supposed to work. It's ruining it.
Well, if you go back and you look at, here's the hypocrisy to me of Scalia and the originalists. Who wrote the original document? They never foresaw being full-time politicians.
No.
They were gentlemen
Right.
farmers
They
who
were
were
gentlemen
farm
farmers,
farmers who
right?
were
That's right,
politicians.
right. That's exactly right.
Who did that. And so there's no way they could have foresaw what would occur. There's no way they could foresaw the internet. There's no way they could foresaw cars. There's no way they could foresaw airplanes or whatever else it may be. So to say that we have to go back to what they originally thought. Well, yes, about the ideals of what the country should be, but no, not about how they're how they are literally conducted.
That's exactly right.
Oh
That's
yeah,
right.
how they're staged and choreographed.
Right, and built upon over time, and that's the fallacy of the whole thing.
Term limits, and we can as voters impose them, and we just don't get it.
That one I'll have a disagreement with you.
Go ahead.
Tip O'Neill.
Well, yeah, but that's when we had real statesmen, wasn't it?
There's still a few real statesmen around, but if you have term limits, you won't have a Tip O'Neill.
I know, but then how do you break the terrible culture that's going on?
You vote for the right people.
Yeah, you have to be able. Well, that's
If
the key
they
to
give
all.
us the right
Well,
people.
no. I think no. I really do. I think key to all our situations is the civic duty of each and every one of us. And
then
that
go
is
home.
not. And well, the problem is that we somehow civic duty is only taught to
If it's taught.
if it's
If
taught.
it's taught.
If it's taught, it's taught in some schools where the educational level is expected to be a certain level, where there's expectation. It isn't taught in areas where they're not looking for the expectation. That's a nice way of me trying to say this. I would say it in
Keep
another
the
way.
stupid people
Yeah.
stupid.
You want to keep people uneducated, uninformed,
Yes.
and stuff like that. That's how you control them.
And I see
Okay,
a
so
trend
that's-
toward that right
well,
now,
Well,
too.
that's dumbing down is clearly a situation that,
And-
depending on where you live in the country.
Right. Well, but it's also how it's communicated is we can't afford it.
Yeah, right. Well,
Right.
that's baloney.
Well, if you look at tax rates and you look at all the rest of that, the taxes are as low on individuals and they're as low on corporations as they have
Right.
been for whatever. So this argument that we don't have the money, yeah, we do have the money. It's a question of what do you want to spend it on, and the question is who is contributing towards it. And the idea that you can't bump up the tax rates on people who earn more than $1 million, that's nonsense.
It is.
It is. But they're the ones who are contributing the money to the campaigns, and it goes from there. the logic.
I only got a couple of minutes left, so I really want to. Kathy, I want you to say at least a minute what you're doing, where you're going. Talk to your constituency.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And,
yeah.
and then after you're finished, you can segue to Michael.
I'll make this as brief as a Kathy Johnson can possibly make it. First of all, I'm not taking any money from developers. I'm funding my own campaign. I'm not taking money from the Democratic Town Committee. We're making our own signs in Oxford. I think frugality begins at home. I want to show the citizens of Oxford that you can run a campaign with issues and communication, and there's many ways to communicate, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. I'm asking eventually, when I'm on paper to do so, $5 and $10 donations if you want to give them to me, just to get some of my literature out. My first and foremost issue in Oxford is to keep the town safe. All our firemen, ambulance, road crews, the police. Secondly is, of course, I'm a retiree and I'm on a fixed income, so I want to stay frugal and yet not be penny wise and pound foolish. I support education, and I want to see the town grow in an orderly manner and keep the last vestiges of the rural character we can possibly have in Oxford, Connecticut. Thank you.
Sounds good. I can't vote down there. You want me to come down and cheat? Michael.
Well, or get people to go in the traditional Chicago style, which is vote early, vote often.
Vote early, vote often, that's right.
Right.
Well, first of all, on your Facebook page, put where people can send a donation to you.
Yes, I can't do that yet. I'm signed up to be only using $1,000 of my own money with this preliminary, but after the caucus, yes.
Okay. All I can say is please come and go to my website and see the articles and see what we're going to discuss. I will say the next article, or at least the one I'm working on, is about the death penalty. And we may be talking about that.
We may be talking that on my other show.
On your other
Exactly
show.
right. We'll be talking about the death penalty.
And we have the major case, the penalty phase of the Zarnoff trial is being done. So and it's got the potential to divide people's opinion on what should be done.
Right.
Okay.
And we're running out of time. And I want to thank you folks. And we'll talk to you. You can run the street. And God bless. God bless you all. Pray for me. I pray for you. And I believe my street will be up there and running.